Hello and welcome to my channel. If you don't know me already, my name is Onem. I'm a project manager and a business solutions consultant. Today we'll be talking about how to create a simple sales dashboard on Microsoft Power BI. This is especially good for project managers if you want to write reports or send reports. As a project manager, you know that we spend a lot of time doing reports for our project, but this video is especially good not just for project managers, but anybody that has any kind of interface with data and you'd like to create reporting or dashboards to speak with stakeholders or higher ups or team members about what's happening in the projects that you're taking care of. So that's what we're going to do today. We'll keep it pretty simple so that it's self-explanatory and we'll go from there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and click the bell notification so you'll be the first to know if I post a new video. Let's go. To download Power BI, go to the Microsoft Store, search for Power BI. You see a bunch of options, but go for Power BI Desktop because that gives you a lot more of the functionalities that you need for reports and dashboards. Go through the prompts and then I'll see you on the other end. After the download, you appear on this interface where you're going to have the opportunity to select what data you want to use. If you've had a report done before, you're going to see an option to open that particular report. In this case, we're going to go ahead to close this and see what the interface looks like on Power BI. You can see that it gives you an opportunity to add data to your report because without data, what kind of dashboard are we creating anyway? So just to go through very quickly, you have file, home, insert, modeling, view, optimize, and help. I'm not going to go through all of that because we're trying to keep the video simple today. But as you can see, you have different options to get data into Power BI. You can import data from Excel, which is the most common way to get data into Power BI. So it will be a CSV file. You can import from SQL Server. You can paste the data into a blank table, or you can try a sample data set. If you go ahead to get data from another source, I just want to give you an idea of how much Power BI has given an opportunity for you to get data in. And this is just all of how you can get data into Power BI. So the likelihood is that if you have a data source somewhere, you'll probably be able to get it in. So that's not a problem. For today's video, however, we're going to use a sample data set from Power BI itself. So we're going to click on this particular option, try a sample data set. This way we're not, breaching any proprietary information rules or whatever. So I can't use data from a client or something. So we're going to use a sample data. You're going to see experiment on your own to start creating visuals on your own, load sample data. So what I recommend is if you want to follow along with me, do the same thing I'm doing, load the sample data. We're going to be using the same. So I'll go ahead to click on this and then it will take some time to load. Let's give it a minute. It's connected. When the data is loading, you see two different options for your data. You see a table and a sheet. The sign for the table has the blue marker on top, as you can see here. I'll go ahead to choose that. When you do that, you can see the preview on the right-hand side with the columns and the rows. There are two options available to you, or three rather. You can load the data, meaning you just want to put the data into Power BI. You can transform the data, meaning you want to make some edits to the original data you're bringing into Power BI. Someone might ask that what's the reason why you want to transform the data? Sometimes you don't have the ability to edit the original data where you're getting the data from. Maybe it's from a database, or maybe you're not the author of the data, so you won't have an opportunity to edit the original data. So that's an opportunity for you to do so. Another reason is you just want to make sure that the data that you're bringing in, the information in the data is exactly what you need to for your report or for your dashboard, or you can go ahead to cancel. In this case, I'm going to go ahead to transform the data. So I'll click on that button and it will open the Power Query interface for me to transform my data. When I click on transform data, it opens the Power Query editor. This Power Query editor gives me an opportunity to edit the data. As you can see here, there are a bunch of options available. We are trying to keep the video simple, so I'm not going to go through everything. But the ones that I'll really go through are under applied steps. You see that for every single step we take to edit this data, it's going to be recorded here. Power Query has already gone ahead to change the type of data for some of the columns. So you can see that step here. If you go ahead to click on this X, it will take that step back. So what do we need to do with this data? So I don't need some of the columns that appear in this particular data that I have. So I just want to remove some of them. An example is this discount band. So to remove them, I'm going to go ahead to choose columns. When I click on that, it's going to open this. And you see that all the columns that I have available on my table are checked. So if I want to take out some particular columns, I can just uncheck them. So I'm going to go ahead to check discount band because I don't think that's for something else that Power Query did automatically is to consolidate the month number, month name, and month year into this date column. So I'm going to go ahead to remove those because for this particular report, I don't need it. So when I finish with that, I'm going to go ahead to press OK. And what will happen is those columns are out. As you can see, the discount band column is no longer here. When I'm done with everything and I feel like my data is okay now for the report I want to do, I can go ahead to close and apply. After you close and apply, the data opens in the report view. There's nothing right now because we haven't created any metric at all. If you want to see the data that you've just brought into Power BI from Power Query, you can see it here. And this other view, I don't really have to talk about because I have only one table. But if you have two tables in your data, so if you have a financials table and maybe customer ID table, there's going to be the second table here where you can create a connection between them and use both in the report. But we're not doing that today. So we're going to go back to our report view. So now that we're back to the report view, the first thing we're going to do is just look at what this interface has to offer. Just a quick one. Everything inside of these dotted lines is called the canvas, and anything outside of it is called the wallpaper. You can decide to change the color of the background of the canvas, for instance, and the wallpaper as well. To do that, you use the Format tab on the right-hand side. For my canvas, I'm deciding to keep it as white. If you choose, you can change the color. So some people prefer to change the color of the background because they want their dashboard to appear in a particular way. So if you want to do that, please go ahead. I'm opting to leave mine as white. If you want to see what it really looks like, just change the transparency. The transparency was at 10%, but I'm opting to keep mine as white. You can do the same thing for the wallpaper as well. The wallpaper is the area outside of the canvas. You can decide that you want to change it to any color you want, and you can go ahead to do that. But today I'm deciding to keep things a little bit clean. To start this report, we're going to start with a text box. To get the text home tab, and you see text box right here. You click on it to add the text box to the report. Once you click on any metric, any chart type, or any of the maps or any of those things, any of the charts you want to use for your report, once you click on it and it appears inside of the canvas, automatically the formatting pane populates so that you can edit whatever you have selected. In this case, you can see visual and properties, and that appears for most or all of the chart types that you choose. In this case, I can see that title is off. What I'm going to do is put it on because I want to create a title for my text box. So I'm going to make it Sales Dashboard Q3. You can follow along, as I said. So now this is Sales Dashboard Q3. I'm going to change the font to Calibri. I'll change the heading to the font size to 40. I'll make it bold. I'll make the color purple. Let me just decide that it's going to be purple for this particular company. We can make the chart types a little bit colorful, but the base color will be purple. And I think that's about it for what I want to do with this text box. The good thing about this is I can always come back to change whatever I want. I can decide that I want it underlined, but in this case, I think it's not underlined. I'll go ahead to edit it properly. I'll put Q3. Okay, so there you have it. So I'm just going to go ahead to edit it properly. Okay. So that's for the title. If you click out of it, it goes back to the canvas features under format or the page information under format. As you can see, this is page 1, but as you can see from the other dashboards I've done, those pages have names as well. So for me to change that, I can come under page information, change it to say sales Q4, I guess. Can make it up. Okay, so I've gone ahead to change that. So you know that when you're going to give a report, when you're going to present a report or send a report to stakeholders, you need to be able to put in some metrics. So we're going to put in some high level metrics because one thing I think about a dashboard is a one-page document that tells all about your project. So what are the kinds of things that we can glean or take out of financial information or sales dashboard? One of the things I think about is gross sales, how many units were sold, what segments of the population are we dealing with, what's the net profit, Did we give any discount and what's the total? So I'm going to create cards for those. If I want to create a card, it's very easy. I have under the Inserts tab here a bunch of charts and graphs that are available for me in Power BI. This is one of the cards. There are other ones available as well. If you want to see everything that is in offering, you can click on this drop down arrow and see them categorized. In this case, I'm just going to keep it simple today. We can do another video in the future where we delve into more complicated or more advanced features of Power BI. Today is just a simple tutorial. So I'll click on it like I did before. One thing about Power BI is that you can decide to click the actual chart type first or the visual type first before you put in the metrics, or you can decide to go with the metrics first. For this particular one, I'm going to choose the visual type first. So we've gone ahead to do the card, but where do we find our data? So we can decide to click on this particular button to get our data, or we can also get the data from on the right hand side just beside the format button. You can also get the data from there as well. So if we want to get the total of the gross sales, we can go ahead on this button, and that will give us the total of all the gross sales that we've had in the particular origin data that we have, the source data. So in this case, I have it here, but it says sum of gross sales. I don't want it to be that. I don't want it to say that. So I'm going to change it. For me to be able to change it, I'm going to go under the format tab. The format tab shows me different options available. In this case, I have some checked on and some are off. The sum of the gross sales is a category label. I don't want that to be the title, so I'm going to put it off. Instead, I want the title to be on. I'm going to open that. I'm going to change the text to gross sales. I'll do some editing on the text. So just to keep up with consistency, I'm going to make it Calibri as well. I'll change the font to 18. I'm going to make it bold. In keeping with consistency as well, I'll change the color to purple. I'll make it center. And I think that's okay for the title. This particular number, 27.93 million, is the call out value. So for the call out value, I'm going to make it Calibri as well. I'm going to make the font, let's say 35. I'll make it bold. I'll also make it purple. For the display unit, if you make it thousands, it's going to show like 127,921, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's too cumbersome for me. So I'm just going to leave it at auto. And for decimal places, you can decide that you want to make it one decimal place, 0, 1, 2, depending on what you want. I'm going to leave mine as 2. If you decide, you can put other features. What I recommend is to go through and play around with it to see exactly what you would like. The next thing I'm going to do is actually change the shadow, put on the shadow. And then I like how the shadow is outside and on the bottom right. I don't have a problem with that. That looks good. But in keeping up with the color consistency, I'm going to make the shadow purple as well. So that's looking good. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. I'll move it up a bit, not too close. You have the rulers that come out to guide you. So I've just created our first card. I like how it's a little bit lifted. It gives it some body. So I'm going to go ahead to create the other cards off camera. That way, I mean, you can just go through the same process. I'm going to create about 4 more cards to cover units sold, segments, net profit, and total discount, and then we'll come back. I've gone ahead to create the 5 cards that I talked about. There might be, if you're following along, you'll notice that this particular card is different than in yours. I'm going to point out how I got 5 because it might seem a little bit different with yours. I'll tell you why. So go ahead to click on that card, and if you go under the data tab, let me uncheck the segment for a minute, and if I check it again, you see that it's just giving me the first segment. It defaults to the first segment. In this case, there's supposed to be 5 segments. So to change that, I go into this arrow, the data options, and then I click on the drop down arrow for aggregation and click on distinct count, and that way it gives me 5. So I wanted to point that out just in case you were having a problem with that. So now that we have that sorted, we'll go to the next portion of our dashboard. So the next thing we want to do is actually get sales by country. So sales by country, we can decide to use a donut chart. So we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll go to our home tab, and under inserts, we'll just click on the donut chart. Just hover over them and then you see which one is the donut chart if you're not sure. So I'll click on this one, which is the donut chart, and it places it in canvas. And then I'll go ahead to put the data. So I click on country because I want to know what the sales is by country. After country, I'm going to click on sales as well. And Power BI automatically gives me the metrics inside of the chart. So I'm just going to expand it a little bit and make it a little bit longer. I like how it's looking. I like the colors as well, but I just want to make sure everything is consistent. So I'll go into my format tab. The first thing I'll do is go under title. Instead of sum of sales by country, I'm going to take out the sum of and keep just the sales. I'll change the font type to Calibri. I'll change the font size to 18. Let's be consistent. I'll make it bold, and then I'll make the text color to be purple. So that's for the title. Another thing I want to do is actually put on the shadow. I like how it's outside and bottom right, like I did, and I'll change the shadow color to purple. So that looks good. I like the way it's looking. I just want to make sure that everything is aligned properly, and for now it is. So we'll go to the next one. The next metric we want to find out is units sold by product. Units sold by product. So for that, we can use, let's see, what can we use? Let's use a stacked column chart. So we click on it, just like before. We go to our data tab. So what we want to find out is units sold by product. So of course we need the product and we need the unit sold. So it's going to populate it for us. In this case, it made all the colors of the bars blue. So to change that, we can go into the format tab. So now that we're here already, let's just put on the shadow and make the color purple. We'll close that. We'll go into the title. We'll remove the sum of and make a unit sold by product. Okay. We want the font type to be Calibri, just like before. The size as 18, we'll make it bold, don't forget. And the color will be purple, just like before. So we have a bunch of other things here that we can add. One thing I want to do is put on the data labels. As you can see, the data labels actually puts the particular amount for each bar on top of it. I like that. So you see what all of this is. You can put grid lines if you want, but I want to go into columns and then I want to put it on and do show all. When I show all, it's going to give me the different columns that I have, and I can change the colors if I want. So I'll make this purple. I can make the next one another color. Just choose whatever color you like. I can make it consistent with what I have already. Can make this pink. Can make this orange color. This can be a lighter purple. Okay, so I like that how that's looking. So that's columns. If you want to go on to, you can play around with it just to see if there's something else you want to change. But for me, I'm okay with that right now. I'll move this up a bit. I'll move this up a bit. Just align it properly. So I like how that's looking. If you want to change anything, you can go ahead to do so. So y-axis, x-axis, whatever you want, you can go ahead to do so. You can change a bunch of stuff, the values. You can change the font of the values and the colors to match what you want, but we're going to keep ours like this because this is just a tutorial. It's a blank slate for you to do what you want. The next thing we're going to look at is do sales by year and product. So what we can do in this case is start with the data first in this case. So I'm going to choose sales and year and by product. So apart from sales, I'm going to also include date because I have my year. And I also want the product category. So I'm going to add product as well. So what happens is that because I put in the metric first, Power BI is going to decide what kind of chart will be a reasonable kind of chart to use for the kind of data that I've chosen. So in this case, it's chosen this particular visual type for me, which is I can go on to change it if I want. So if you want to keep yours just like that, you can do so. But in my case, I want to change it. So let's see, what can we change it to? Let's try a start area chart. How does that look? Do we like that? Maybe not. So let's go in and see what else we can use. Let's use a ribbon chart. A ribbon chart will look, I think, lovely. That looks amazing. So let's go ahead to edit that just like we did before. I'm just going to expand it so it looks a little bit nice. So to edit it, I go into where we were before. So in this case, I'm going to take out some off. Instead of putting the and, I'm going to put a slash. Just like before, we'll make the font Calibri. We'll make it 18. We'll make it bold. We'll make the color the same purple. Put off the door. And then we want to put on the data labels, just like I did before. Okay. I mean, I don't mind the colors of the ribbons, but if you want to, you can, change it if you like. You can make it reverse, but okay with how it is. The connectors are how the ribbons connect with both sides. You can make it more transparent, so even up to 45% or 46, or you can also make it a little bit darker if you want. So we're going to leave it at 26%. So we like how this is looking. If you want to change the colors, as I said, you can do so here. That's for the ribbons. So I like how this is looking. Let's just make sure everything is looking okay. Did we put on the shadow? Maybe not. Let's go back and see what to do about that. So we select it again. We go under size and style. We didn't, so let's put on the shadow. We'll make it purple. We like it outside and bottom right. So this is looking good so far. So as we can see, Amarella, which is one of our products, is, you can see what it is here. You have Montara. Montara starts at 4 million in 2013 and it's 11 million in 2014. Making quite a bit of money in this business, eh? So that's for that. What other metric can we put in? Put it in the comment section to tell me what other metric you can put in. But for now, just to go ahead, we can use, say, a metric that shows the difference between the manufacturing price and the sales price, just so that whoever the stakeholders are, and if they are decision makers, they can decide, oh, okay, should we increase the sales price? Should we find ways to reduce the manufacturing price? So those are things that you can talk about during a presentation for a report or the sales dashboard. So let's go ahead to include that as well. For that, I can use, let's see what's in Visual Gallery. We can decide that we want to use, let's use an area chart. So where do we find the area chart? Right here. So we can include it by clicking. It's going to go in to the canvas, and then we decide on what data we want to put in. We want to put in product manufacturer versus the sales price. So of course, we'll need the product. We'll need the manufacturing price, and we'll also need the sales price. So those are the metrics that we need. Just give it a little bit. We'll increase it a little bit. We can leave it like this, or we can make it a little bit shorter. Okay, so we're going to here, just like before, we're going to put on our shadow. We'll make our shadow purple. Okay. And then we'll edit the title. So we want to make it manufacturing price. So in this case, instead of and, we can just put it as versus, so VS, and then we'll remove the sum of as well. Okay, so that looks good. We'll change the font to Calibri. We'll change the font size to 18, make it bold. Make the text color purple as well. Okay. Just to give it some space, we can reduce this a little bit. We can do the same here as well. See how you can move things around? And then move this around. Okay. The last metric we're going to include is a map that can show the units sold by country. So we'll just include it here by clicking, and then we'll go to our data. We'll include the country, and we want to know the units sold by country, so we include the units sold as well. So this is going to be a map with bubbles. So what do? We go back to our formats like we did before. We go to title, take out the sum of units sold by country, change it to Calibri, 18, bold, purple. So that's the title done. We can change the color of the bubbles that you have inside of the map. So to keep it consistent with what our colors are, we change the bubbles to purple. Okay. So that's for bubbles. And this looks good. So in a space of 30 minutes, okay, just a second. We also want to include the shadow. And our shadow color has to be purple. Okay. And we don't want both of them touching each other, so we reduce it. So we can go under map settings as well. We can decide that, okay, we want it to be light or grayscale, or if it's dark, it goes a little bit dark, but we can make it grayscale, for instance. Okay. Can go under controls, and we can add zoom buttons, so you can zoom in and out of anything that is inside of the map. So I think that looks good. So in a space of about 25-30 minutes, we've created this very good dashboard that is very colorful. It has a lot of information. The last thing we're going to do is create a slicer. The slicer is very important because in Power BI, usually you can choose a particular part of the metric. So in this case, I've just selected United States of America, and everything in the chart has changed. Everything on my dashboard has changed to reflect that selection I made. So that's just one of the things about Power BI that we have to understand. So in this case, what we can do is we can add a slicer. So to do so, we go under home and insert like we've been doing before, and we just click on slicer. In this case, the data we want to put into the slicer is by product. So just like we were doing before, we go under the format tab to format the slicer. So we click on format. Let's first put the shadow because we're here already. Change it to purple. So that takes care of the size and style. We're going to take off the header. We don't want any headers. And then we'll go under slicer settings. So instead of a vertical list, we'll make it tiles. And then we'll adjust it and take it up. Adjust it to fit. Okay. So we can decide that we want a select all option as part of slicers. We can include that there. So that's the slicer settings. For the values, We can decide that, of course, in keeping with what we've been doing before, we want to make it Calibri. We want to make them bold. If we want, we can make them 15. We can make them purple if we want, or we can leave them as white. So let's make them purple. Okay. If we want to put a border or a background, we can do that as well. But as we said before, we want to keep everything quite simple. So that's it. What's the purpose of the slicer? So if I select any of these, I'm selecting Amarilla, and you can see that everything on the dashboard has changed to reflect my selection of Amarilla. If I select Velo, it changes to reflect Velo that I've chosen. If I do control click, I can select more than one. If you're on Apple, command click. So I choose Paseo and Velo, and my whole dashboard is interactive enough to change to reflect what I choose. I can go back to select all, and it gives me exactly what my metrics were before. So congratulations, you've created a dashboard on Power BI. If you like, you can publish it to the Power BI service. So this is an online publishing service where you can see your dashboard online. Or if you want to share it with your fellow team members, what you can do is export it to PDF, and you should be able to share it as a PDF file by email and all of that. So congratulations. Don't forget to like, to comment, to click on the bell notification so you'll be the first to know if I post a new video. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to put it in the comment section. Until next time, I'll see you again. Ciao. Have a great day.